rhododendron leaves are shuttered up. Normally they flare out. Just one way, you can tell that it's pretty cold. I am making my annual pilgrimage up here to the top of the mountain that my village is named after. I come up here once a year. Last year, I came up here the day after Thanksgiving. I love it up here. This is another example of what I consider holy land, a holy place. And even the Cherokee and Catawba Indian tribes that inhabited this area before the Europeans came over, they also viewed Roan Mountain as a holy place. I love walking into this red spruce and the birch tree right there. One of the few deciduous trees, one of the few species that grows at this elevation. It's like I've said before, walking through here reminds me of forests, pictures of forests that I've seen that are in Norway and Sweden, other parts of Northern Europe, evergreen forests. We're at the top of the bald here. Trees don't grow up here, that's why they call it a bald. This is called the round bald. That right there is the round high knob. It's about 400 feet higher than what we are currently. And this is North Carolina. I'm probably standing on the Tennessee-North Carolina state line. In the distance there, let's see, is Mount Mitchell. Mount Mitchell is the highest peak east of the Rocky Mountains on the North American continent. It's the highest peak in Appalachia. Then we'll walk over here, take a look at the Tennessee side. There's Hump Mountain, Yellow Mountain. And here's the Tennessee side. The Roan Highlands here, they form the barrier. And the North Carolina-Tennessee state line runs along the crest of it, but I think I've probably mentioned this about 1,000 times in these videos. It's about 12 degrees right now. Anyways, I'm gonna get started here, get to the main point of the video. Thanks for bearing with my little educational part here. So let's get started. What I wanted to add quickly too is just because our civilization, society, and all these things are in a state of decline doesn't fucking mean that you have to be in a state of decline as well. During this time of year, a lot of people like to make predictions. They also like to make New Year's resolutions. And I myself wonder what will be in 2023. Myself, I view New Year's resolutions as something that is completely stupid. In almost all cases, within a few days after New Year's, or a week, or 2 weeks, the vast majority of people have failed, and failed miserably, at their New Year's resolutions. For something to inspire true and real change in people, it usually has to be some sort of grave warning, some sort of crisis, or perhaps some sort of catalyst. And as you know, these things, they appear when they will. They don't wait for a specific calendar date. And my predictions for 2023, you see, I don't really care for making predictions either and airing them out. Yet I suppose we all do this. Some people go into specifics and great detail. I don't waste time with such things myself, unless I have a substantial bit of information and perhaps it personally affects me. But my predictions for 2023 are much the same as they have been for the last couple of years. I expect that America will continue to trend towards third world conditions. We see it with supply chain issues. In this country, we don't have a southern border right now. I expect the same for Europe as well, for all of our Western nations, you could say. I mean, after all, our government is the enemy. They facilitate the invasion of our homelands. These NGOs, usually spearheaded by members of a certain tribe, they flood our nations with invaders. There's no sense in calling them migrants or refugees anymore. But we all know this, of course. And I expect to continue to see society and civilization decline, spiritually, morally, physically. We see it everywhere. And in these circles, it's very frustrating, I know, for a lot of young men and young women as well. I know it's frustrating for me sometimes, because I think that we are, obviously, in decline. How long this decline will be, I will not speculate on. I mean, after all, it took a few centuries for the Roman Empire to fall. And it was a gradual decline, you could say. All I know is that the road is going to be long and it's going to be bad. But I will not speculate on such things, as I said. It's very frustrating, like I said, for some of these young men in these circles and young women. But what I want to give you in this video is my own personal philosophy. I touched on this in the first video of 2022. But I want to expound a little bit further on it. Expand, I guess I should say. Excuse me. But I wanted to share this with you because on a personal level, it has worked for me. And I developed this philosophy during the years of meth. Now, I keep thinking someone is sneaking up on me. I'm sitting here on the trail after all. But anyways, I'm not a very well-read person in philosophy at all. I've read some Nietzsche, a little bit of Nietzsche, and just a little bit, even less, of Schopenhauer. So my understanding is very basic, it's very surface level. And I'm working on reading some Nietzsche currently. But I don't want to just sit around and read all the time. I do enjoy reading, of course. Hold on, I got a visitor. Alright, sorry about that. I am on the trail after all. But you know, I don't want to waste too much time reading, because I think it's important for us to live. Coming up here to this mountain is a sort of spiritual experience. This is one of the aspects of what I believe it is to live and to bear witness and to experience the extreme. Hail, holy winter. This is what it is to live. And I would warn against becoming a person who just reads all the time. It's important, of course, but you can do so much, you can do too much, I believe, if it restricts you from truly living, I believe. And I also would like to develop some sort of philosophy of my own. Although, of course, this, I imagine, would be a lifetime's work. But I want to give you the basic foundation of my own personal philosophy. And how I approach it is this. I have looked at things the last several years in life. Like I said, I developed this during the chaos, the personal chaos and turmoil during the years of meth. And my philosophy, to sum it up at its most basic form, is that I look at things like this. I will always make it. I will always make it until the day comes that I don't. This is the basic premise, I guess, of my personal philosophy. Perhaps it would help if I clarified what this philosophy isn't. Perhaps that would help me explain it a little better. This sort of mantra or philosophy is definitely not a cope. This philosophy is not copium, you could say. It's not patting you on the back and telling you that everything is going to be alright. Because believe me, nothing is alright if you think about it. It's not some sort of cope. And also, this philosophy is not some bold and boastful proclamation that I will always win. Because you don't always win, and things aren't always alright. In my life, I have lost things. I've suffered things, as we all have. Some of us more so than others. But it is not some sort of bragging, some sort of boastful proclamation like I just said. Because in life you lose things. You don't always come out on top. But what it is a statement that says, whatever may come, I may win, I may lose, I may draw. Whatever may come though, I will make it through it. I will persevere, I will hang on. And this philosophy, it served me well. especially during the years of meth. I didn't always win. I didn't always get the desired outcome. But I always made it through, one way or another. You know, and in this worldview, in this sort of philosophy, and perhaps, you know, anyone in the comments that's much more well-read on philosophy, feel free to let me know in the comment box below if there is some sort of, if some philosopher has already devised this, you know. Feel free, because, like I said, I'm not well-read. Explain it to me. I'd appreciate it, you know. And in this worldview, I guess, this sort of mantra, there is a bit of fatalism to it. Now, fatalism is a sort of philosophy, I guess, that has always been appealing to me in a way. You know, but it's something I think you shouldn't overindulge in. And I'll explain why here in a second. But fatalism, of course, is that things have been decreed, the things that come to pass have been decreed to happen. Fatalism is kind of appealing to me in a way. The other night, I listened to my friend Pat, and he had John Fashcroft, another good friend, on his stream. And there was a part of it where Pat asked John how it is that people that are in these white nationalist circles, or, you know, I guess the broader dissident right, how do you fight against paranoia? It's a good question. And myself, I've always been kind of a high-strung individual. I can be a nervous type person sometimes, a little bit, especially when I was younger. But during the years of meth and the chaos that ensued from those times, you know, I learned to lay back, you could say. Nervousness is a little bit of nervousness on a personal level, for me at least. Being a little nervous was a good thing. Now, you can be overly nervous and just become petrified. You know, back when I was younger, when I was in high school, before a football game, I'd be a little nervous sometimes. Just a little bit of nervous. Before I pitched in a baseball game, a little bit of nerves sometimes. And it seems like I usually performed my best when I had a little bit of nerves, you could say, a little butterflies before I started. That's when I performed my best, because I felt like it gave me a little bit of an edge, you could say. If I was overly anxious or overly nervous, may not perform so well. If I was too laid back and too calm, didn't perform quite as well. But you know, John answered, going back to the stream, John answered that long ago he accepted that this is sort of a dangerous game that we are in. And this was an excellent answer, and this is something that I came to grips with during the years of meth. When I got into methamphetamine, I quickly learned, now I had been involved in some criminal activities before then, years before then. But when I got into methamphetamine, I realized that this was a different animal. The people that was around me are more prone to violence, more prone to unpredictability, you could say. During those years, part of this formation of this mantra that I have was I accepted back then that I was on this fatal trajectory, as Didymus Sumidid called it. Kind of a view of, it's kind of an aspect of fatalism, I suppose, you know. When you're in that life, bad things happen. It's inevitable. Going to jail. Death. I mean, there are 9 people that are from my village that I used to run around with during the years of meth that are gone now. The youngest was 25.
The oldest was up in his 50s, but I used to run around with these people. And they're dead now, unfortunately. It's a tragedy, but if you are in that life, it is always a distinct possibility. If you are in these white nationalist spheres, dissident right spheres, there is always the looming possibility of things going awry and perhaps having your personal life ruined. So that was a great answer that John had given about fatalism, well, about paranoia, And I mean, even when I was on methamphetamine, so into it so deeply, I never really got paranoid. I got nervous at times. I had worries. We all have worries, though. Everyone worries from time to time. The question is, what do you do with that worry? And something to my credit, I don't want to sound too self-aggrandizing here, but whenever I've been worried or nervous, I act. I react well. Do what I can to eliminate the problem, or minimize the problem, you could say. That's one thing that I've always done well with. And I mean, during the years of meth, I was into robbery, thieving, criminality, fights. Sometimes it was violent. I had a near-death experience once. I almost had my face blown off the side of Interstate 26. One of these days, I have held off for 3 years from telling this story, but I guess one day here soon I'll finally tell you all the complete story. But I got through it. I will always make it until the day comes that I don't. This isn't some sort of beating my chest and saying that, I'm going to live forever. Of course not. Because there is a day coming that I won't make it. But until then, I'm going to give it hell. And I'm going to be judicious in doing so, because in life, you have to realize you can't always give it hell constantly. There's some trees you may not want to bark up. But there's others where you just need to push yourself to the max, you could say, to fully expend yourself. One of the drawbacks, though, of fatalism, I suppose, is that unfortunately, it can produce an attitude of submissiveness, unfortunately. Because if you are resigned completely, then you will just roll over. You don't want to do this. You don't want to overindulge in fatalism, but accepting certain things, like my acceptance that we are on this fatal trajectory, you could say. It isn't a resignation. It's just an understanding that death comes for us all, eventually, some sooner than others. Anyways, is there anything else? I want to try to keep this short. Like I said, I'm not well read on philosophy, and I know this is a very simplistic concept, But it's worked well for me over the years. I may not always win. I may not always come out on top. I may not always get the desired outcome. I may not always reach my goal, but I will make it until I don't. And another thing, I don't mean to be crude here, but for you young men out there, you gotta live, and you gotta take risks sometimes. You just gotta make sure that the risk is worth the reward, and that do what you can to minimize risk. This was something that I was very good at in my days of criminality, robbery, thieving. I was always good at minimizing risk. And it helps. You know, you minimize risk, your chances of success are much higher. And for you young men out there, it could just be going up to a pretty girl and talking to them. You may be a little nervous, but you know what I always used to do? I don't mean to be crude here, but I would grab myself by the balls and I would ask myself, hey, you got your balls still, don't you? And I would answer myself. Some would say that's probably a sign of insanity, but I'm not insane. I would answer myself, yeah, got my balls still. And then I would ask myself, well, are you intact? You ain't bleeding or anything. Look at my hand. No, I'm not bleeding. Not bleeding and not hurting down there. And I would answer myself, well, guess what? You're a fucking man. Fucking act like it and fucking pull through. And this sort of, you know, help me persevere, I guess you could say. Get me into the correct mindset of whatever undertaking it was that I was about to attempt. Anyways, to close out this video, what will 2023 bring us? I already outlined that in the beginning of this video. To be honest, I'm not too worried what it will bring me. Because I just look at it like this. I will always make it until the day comes that I don't. I'm going to make it through 2023. I hope all of you do. You know, I'm just trying to give a little advice here. Because, you know, young men nowadays need some advice. Unfortunately. You young Zoomers. Millennials too. Everybody can use some advice, regardless of whatever generational group you're in. Everybody can use some advice from time to time. Anyways, hope y'all have a happy new year. And do what you can. Produce things for yourself, like I mentioned in the last video. Improve yourself. Improve yourself. And if you have problems, you should become an archetype of the Nietzschean concept of the overman. You conquer those problems. You persevere and you triumph. Thank y'all for watching. Bye-bye.